What is up, everybody? Welcome into another Talk Toomey Tuesday night. It's 9 o'clock Eastern, so we are hanging out with you guys. We've got Matt Naas from the Roach Coach podcast and Chris Czynszak in the green room waiting to come on. So let's go ahead and pull them on, even though Chris is wearing his Chiefs hat today, so we're not too happy about that one. What is up, gentlemen? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, Toomey?
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem, man. No problem. Thanks for taking the time tonight. And let's just go ahead and get the pleasantries out of the way, man. But Chris, tell us where you're from and the podcast. What does Decibel Geek offer everybody out there?
Well, Camaro's so much better at doing this than me. Decibel Geek's been around since 2011. It's a weekly rock and metal talk show. Themes change all the time. We're in week 3 out of 4 for our Kissmas in July right now, where we cover all Kiss topics for the whole month. And then sometimes have special guests. We have our good friend Baco coming up this week, which it was a fun one to record, what we remember of it. But we've done, interviews, year in review shows. We used to do a thing called Radio Suck Show, but we don't really play much music anymore thanks to Universal Music Group. It changes all the time. But yeah, it'll be 10 years next April, which is really hard to believe. And I got Aaron Camaro, who's my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world. And that's just been doing it for a long, long time.
Matt, tell us a little bit about Roach Coach, man.
Well, Roach Coach is Lauren Kozlowski, Jennifer Socia, and myself. And every week we take another album to decide whether it belongs in the new metal canon. We just celebrated 4 years of our show, and we are notorious for not putting the first Korn album in the new metal canon.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's episode number 1. And we started off with a bang, not putting what everybody considers to be the most deserving album of all time.
I guess you got a little bit of heat for that.
Yeah, but I think it was the spark that started the show off in a different direction, where it wasn't just going to be pandering, and it wasn't going to be just it wasn't an instant yes. And I think it was all in all a good thing. And now it's just become our thing. I'm like, yep, didn't get in there. Because even if we put an album that or a song from an artist, we always will go, so this goes in, but not the first Korn record.
Well, that's one thing I've always said about Roach Coach being a good podcast is the fact that it's not 3 just new metal fans sitting around talking about new metal. It's you. Obviously, you don't listen to the record until they do
Correct.
The episode, and you kind of come from more of an industrial background, and almost hated on the genre throughout the years.
Oh yeah, I was very nose up in the air, navel gazy, have to be oh, this is what Q magazine says is important this week. Just shut up type of guy. And now I'm older and I'm just taste is subjective. Let's re-listen to these things with open ears and be there's a lot of reasons why people like this. I understand it. And some of it I like now as well, which still sounds like I have my head up my own butt, but I'm doing the best I can.
Well, kind of getting into the topic tonight is our concert memories and what we grew up, listening to. So I'll start with you, Chris. What was the first show you ever went to see? Where, when, what, how?
Actually, this is serendipitous timing because today's the anniversary of the first show I ever saw. So
no way.
30 years ago, right now, I was seeing Kiss play in 1990 on the Hot in the Shade tour at Starwood Amphitheater here in Nashville, and it was Kiss with Slaughter and Danger Danger opening up, and great show. I mean, I wrote a long post about it today online, but it was amazing show because if you're a Kiss fan, it was the perfect balance of newer 80s material and old stuff. So it was a super long set, and the first time they had really kind of added some of the classic songs back into the set list. So I remember a lot of the older fans that were there were kind of shocked by some of the stuff they broke out. And above all else, it was Eric Carr's last tour before he passed. So I'm really consider myself lucky to have seen that before he died,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. What kind of made me think of this was, I think it was the episode I did with Baco, I believe, he and I were talking about concerts, and you and I have been to so many of the same concerts over the years that it's like, oh yeah, I was at that show. Oh yeah, I was at that show too. But obviously I didn't meet you until just a few years ago. So, kind of cool. And even in the Kiss vein, where we saw, Ace Frehley and Peter Criss at 328, and shows like that, or even the reunion tour at what is now Bridgestone. But,
I think at the time it was called Somay Center, if I'm remembering right.
I think it was honestly, I think it might have just been the Nashville Arena at the time.
Maybe it was. It changed names a lot around that time.
Yeah, it did. Matt, what about you, man? What was your first show?
Hold on tight, because this is a crazy story. Because my dad, so I'm from the Detroit area, grew up in the city itself, and then we moved out to the suburbs. And there was they just tore it down, but the Palace of Auburn Hills was kind of like the big arena near us. And in 1991, ZZ Top played there. So it was ZZ Top and the Black Crowes, and it was the Recycler Tour. And I listened to hip hop a lot when around 1990. I was really into that. My brother liked Depeche Mode and New Order, and my dad was kind of like a solid rock and roll guy, but he liked blues and things like that. So the only thing that we were all able to agree on as a family is that ZZ Top was cool. Like, we all liked ZZ Top, my mom included. So my dad, I remember we went to the local record store, Harmony House. The first show sold out in like 2 seconds. And then it was like one of those things that nobody will be able to relate to anymore, when you're just crestfallen at the Ticketmaster. And then they go, a second show's been added. And then like those tickets go just as fast. So we went there, and the Black Crowes opened. So my whole family's there. My mom, my brother, my dad, and myself. And Black Crowes are late and drunk. And my dad is furious. They finish, Talks to Angels or Hard to Handle, and he is like not having it. ZZ Top comes on, saves the night. Like, they destroy the place. It was a great show. But even on the car ride home, he's like, cannot believe those Black Crowes. Black Crowes. So 2 years later, ZZ Top comes back for the Afterburner tour, the one with Double Back, which was on the Back to the Future 3 soundtrack. So they come back again. My dad's in. He's like, family, round it up. We're going back to see ZZ Top. But this time, the opener's George Thorogood and the Destroyers.
That's good.
8 o'clock doors, 8:30, lights are out. My dad points to both of us 2 years later and goes, that's a professional.
He still holds a grudge to this day.
Oh, to this day, will not give the Black Crowes a chance. But George Thorogood came out, played for 45 minutes, blew the roof off the place, was actually better than ZZ Top that night, because I think it was either Frank Beard's birthday or Billy Gibbons' birthday. So they were in the cups pretty heavy.
Nice.
And they had a good time, but the first show was a lot better. But George Thorogood and the Destroyers just absolutely killed that night. And my dad was just like, yeah, good time, rock and roll.
And if you guys are watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you comment there, and we can see the comments. We can pop them up on the screen, be a part of the show. Tell us what your first show was and all that good stuff. And my first show was 1994, 328 Performance Hall. Went to see Cannibal Corpse, of all bands. It was my first show I ever saw. So yeah, it was a mess, man. It was a band called Sinister opened. Then the band Cynic was after them, and Cannibal Corpse came on. And this was right after, I think, Ace Ventura came out on video. We were just like super pumped that Cannibal Corpse is coming to our town. And then, friend of the show, Jeremy Owsley, that Chris knows, we went together. We go outside. He's like, that's Chris Barnes from Cannibal Corpse right there. I'm like, how do you know that's him? He's like, I could tell by his shoes. And so we went over and got his autograph and all that stuff. And I met like all the guys in Cannibal Corpse that night. And then that band Sinister, they're from like Denmark or somewhere over there, Germany. But that's when they had just built the Bell South AT&T Batman building. in Nashville. So we were like all standing kind of next to it, gazing up at it, man. But I saw so many great shows at 328 Performance Hall, one of my favorite places of all time to go, and sadly not there anymore.
Did you ever get to perform there, Josh?
Uh-huh.
So I got to play there once. It was in the same year, in June of '94 was the first show we played, and it was just a bunch of local bands. We were opening for the Grinning Plowmen and the Mayonnaise Farmers.
Yeah, there's your Mayonnaise Farmers.
Yeah, and and like members of those bands decided to create like a one-off band that night that came on after us, called Satan Shit.
Nice.
Yeah, and all they did was make noise and throw fish at the audience. So we opened for that. That's how bad. But I remember the backstage area, like the bathroom, all the walls in the bathroom were signed by like everyone who had ever performed there. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
So I must have stayed in that bathroom for like 10 minutes just staring at all the different autographs. And then on the back door, on the metal door that goes out to the alley, there was like a fist imprint on the door. And it said, Pantera did this, motherfuckers, and it had all their autographs.
Sounds about right, man. Yeah, I remember the Pantera White Zombie would have been, God, what was that, like 93, somewhere around there. But yeah, I remember dudes in my high school came to class the next day just like, oh man, we went and saw, it was Pantera and White Zombie at a 1,000-seat club.
That must have been intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy, man. Yeah, I got to play, we ended up playing 328 a couple of times. We did a show with like Java Christ.
I remember that.
And no, I think the first time we played it was with Piranha. It was like some benefit for somebody, and then we played that show. And then we did our second album CD release party there, and then we were doing Friday the 13th shows. So anytime there was a Friday the 13th, we would do a show, and we did one of those there. But yeah, man, that was like when you ever think that you might have quote unquote made it. Yeah. That was like my moment, like because
me too.
Because we headlined 328, and I just started going to see shows there and stuff.
I was just happy to play a show there at all, but just to be on that stage.
Richard Waddell's first live show was Donington '87. Bon Jovi, Dio, Metallica, Wasp, Anthrax, and Cinderella. That's awesome.
Wow. So he got ruined for concerts pretty early on.
Pretty fast.
He goes to the next show and it's just like, where's the big stuff going on? Yeah, Corey Davies' first show was 91 AC/DC Razor's Edge at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, where you could also go see some wrestling.
Yeah, that's a legendary place.
John Beatty Skinner at Dover Air Force Base. First show I went to, they wanted to see was Sick and Twisted. Corn Stained, Mindless Self-Indulgence was Matt's favorite band. And actually, I went to a few of those Corn Stained, Mindless Self-Indulgence shows, and those were some good times.
Wow. The strangest girl that I ever dated was a massive fan of Mindless Self-Indulgence.
That follows.
Yeah.
Totally tracks.
lot of chemical problems with that one.
What was some of your guys' like the best shows you've ever seen? Like you walked away, like Matt being like your dad, like, now that's a show.
Right. That's rock and roll. Right,
that's how you do it.
Right. Oh man, for me, my favorite concert that I've ever been to is not a Kiss concert. I never thought I would say that, but I actually, and this is going to be kind of lame, but my mother got tickets to see Paul McCartney. I want to say maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, and she was like, well, her boyfriend didn't want to go. She's like, do you want? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go see Paul McCartney. So we went, and he just blew the doors off the place. I mean, and he was like pushing 70 at that time, and he played for like 3.5 hours. It was crazy. And like, he's like, every song they're handing him a different guitar. He's like, this is the guitar I wrote Paperback Writer on. And then they bring out the Magical Mystery Tour piano, and he's like, this is what we recorded it on. Like, he brought all the actual gear. So as a gear nerd, that like blew me away. And he's just incredible. So, I mean, that was definitely nothing. I don't think anything's ever going to top that one.
Yeah, because he just has hits. Yeah. It's like, oh, hi, here's every song you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny, man. Some of my favorite shows I've ever seen are not in the rock and metal categories. You know, I went and saw Garth Brooks, and he fucking destroyed.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw him a couple of years ago, and we were very blown away by how good he was.
And he does 4 shows in 2 nights of just on 1,000. Like, he's running around the stage just like anything you've ever seen him do, man. Running around the stage and jumping and screaming, and it's like the only concert I've ever seen to where no matter where you were in the in the arena, it felt like you were sitting in his living room.
Yeah, we had nosebleed seats and had a ball. It was great. Yeah.
Matt,
I've seen a couple shows that are coming to my mind. Like, I saw Parliament Funkadelic play. We have right around Labor Day, a festival that happened. I think it's Labor Day, a festival that happens in the city. Was called the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, but now it's called Movement. But when it was before it became corporate, it was free, and Parliament was playing. So it was like, okay, well, we're gonna go see Parliament because I've never seen it, and George Clinton is going to be there. So I was like, fine. I'm not a huge Parliament fan, but I'll tell you, they played for 3 hours, and it was just the vibe of everybody in that crowd. And I was unaffected by anything because I was in my real goody two shoes, straight edge days, and they just wailed for 3 hours, and everybody was into it. That was really awesome. But I've also seen I love shows that you go to where you don't even know the band, and you're like, oh, look at Garth Brooks killing it.
Killing it.
Well, he used to do that guitar duel thing, where somebody else would have an acoustic guitar and then they would smash them together.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, they were swinging like baseball bats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was recently on Netflix. They repackaged a documentary on him, and
I was just about to bring this up.
It's fantastic.
Well, but let me quantify it a little bit. Most of it was fantastic, but all of his little vignettes where he's by himself, and it's everything the man says is the most profound thing ever said. And it's just does this guy ever lighten up? Because it's just it almost be hey, Garth, what do you want from Taco Bell? Well, there's something you got to know about a burrito. It's wrapped just the right way, it can last you all through the night. I mean, he would talk like that through every little segment, and it was all the live stuff and
sustenance
and the rehearsal stuff was great. But when he would talk into the camera, and he was just it's almost like he's trying to be like a soothsayer or something. I'm like, settle down, Beavis.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a lot of times where he's sitting there and you went down to the Bluebird Cafe.
Yeah, and
there was just something in the air that night.
He's trying to become the new Morgan Freeman.
He's doing a good job.
And that's the night I met Andy Dufresne.
One of my favorite places to play was Harpo's there in Detroit, Matt. That's always
that's a place.
They always said that the tour manager that night was just do not leave the venue. And me being me, I was like, I'm gonna go look around, and I left and I walked around the block and right back into the venue. I'm not going out here anywhere.
Yeah, I grew up about a quarter mile away from Harpo's.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean that's very east side, and the further east you go, I was also about a quarter mile or less away from Grosse Pointe, which is a very wealthy. So we were smack dab in the middle. So it was fine. My dad was a Detroit fireman, so we had to live in the city.
Did you go, being a Kiss nerd, I have to ask, did you go see shows at Cobo Hall?
Yes, I saw Ted Nugent's Whiplash Bash.
Oh, nice.
So it was, which was another one. The whole family went. My brother and I were very upset because the Beastie Boys were playing, but it was the New Year's Eve show, and my dad got tickets. So opening up Jackal, Damn Yankees, Ted Nugent.
Nice.
And Jackal was one of the funniest shows I have ever seen in my life. Jesse James Dupree does not let down, and especially in the mid 90s, he was a maniac.
Yeah, and
he was
sorry,
bare butt naked with a guitar over himself, singing "She Loves My Cock," and then at the end he lifts it up for everybody to see. He was going for it.
Wow. Well, I moved to Kansas City in 2001, and this is well past Jackal's prime, and my friend, he grew up there, and like we saw this advertising for this, they call it Rock Fest up there, and it's like the big festival. And at the time, it was like a lot of bands like Godsmack and a lot of new metal stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think Stone Temple Pilots were on the bill, and headlining the show was Jackal. And I looked at it, I was like, why the hell is Jackal headlining this show? They haven't had a hit in 10 years. And he goes, oh no, there's still Giant here. And I'm like, you're full of shit. And then so it's like we went to the show, and I was like, I have to see what the turnout is for Jackal. That place was absolutely packed for Jackal. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
There he is.
I have two Jackal stories, and one of them was when Jeremy, I was like, once again, and I were at the same high school, and he was like, dude, Jackal's doing a signing at Sam Goody in Rivergate by the Rivergate Mall. And I was like, well, I don't have anything Jackal. And he's like, we're going. So after school, like we had just gotten our report cards, and so that semester Jackal signed my report card. They were just laughing their asses off at doing it. But then years later, probably closer to 2000, around the time Chris saw him, I was working at a Crew Masters kind of place where you go and you help set up stages for bands coming through town. Mm-hmm. And Jackal was playing at the riverfront. And so I got some work going down there to do that. And the one thing that blew my mind about Jackal was they were the only band I think I've ever seen that Jesse James Dupree was out there at 9 a.m. sound checking, testing all the gear. He was out in the in the pavilion yelling into the mic, trying to make sure all the levels were right and stuff. So I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I've never seen that. That was probably the only time I ever saw a band out there actually participating in production that early.
Yeah. I was not like a big fan of theirs. I like some of their songs, but I will say they are a hardworking band. They were actually really good live. I'll give them credit. They were a really good live band.
Yeah, they definitely had the crowd going that night. My favorite Jackal memory, I didn't go to Woodstock 99, but I think they were there, and he had a shotgun for one of the songs. It was a prop shotgun, but it did fire off like a blank. Mm-hmm. And he had his fingers over the shotgun, so he blew the tips of his fingers off during the show, during the set. And during it, he was like, "You see what I did for you?" And like he was just bleeding all over us.
Wow,
that's awesome.
But, I think of the metal genre, though. I think some of the best stuff I ever saw was Pantera, White Zombie, but it was a few years later at the Starwood Amphitheater, which is the big outdoor shed that was in Nashville. Man, all my favorite places are gone. Starwood, 328, they're all gone now. But yeah, man, it was one of my favorites was to go see. And the Pantera was on fire, literally. And then White Zombie comes out with the full stage setup and stuff. Chris, were you at that one?
I wasn't at that one. I was going to ask you, did you see Pantera at Starwood when they were on I think it was the Trendkill tour? I don't even remember who opened because I think we got there late. But it was a last minute decision I was in college at the time, and we were like, oh, well, Pantera's in town. Should we go? And a bunch of like, yeah, why don't we just go down there and go? We'll buy tickets when we get there. And we were going to get grass seats because we all wanted to get, because that's where the pit was. And we get there, and I think this was, I don't know, maybe I got the year wrong. I think this wasn't too long after all of the rioting at the Woodstock around that time. And like Starwood had it on lockdown. Like they didn't want people moshing or anything. And when we get to the box office and we go, well, we want grass seats. They go, oh, the grass is sold out. You'll have to get seats. And they're like, well, we'll charge you for a grass seat, but you'll have to stay in the seating area. We're like, well, okay, but we'll just go back out into the grass. And then we get in there and they've got the grass roped off. They weren't letting anyone on the. Were you at that show?
Yeah, I was at that show. Yeah, I don't know the meaning behind that. Also, could just be like a downturn in Pantera where they didn't sell enough tickets for grass.
That's possible. But they were like, the security was getting on people for dancing. I knew there when a guy went to high school. All he was just kind of flailing around. He wasn't even starting a pit. They threw him out of the venue, and I was like, "This is the weirdest environment to see a Pantera concert because you had to just stand there and watch." But they were great. I remember Phil Anselmo was really whacked out on H or something. I don't know. He was He was making like 5-minute speeches in between songs.
That sounds about right. And they were incoherent and yeah.
Yeah, he seemed like he was just in an awful mood the whole show.
Yeah, I think there was Pantera, Machine Head, and Coal Chamber at Starwood, and then there was Pantera, White Zombie, I Hate God, and then I saw Pantera Prong. That was like the first one in '94. Yeah, like basically '94. I went to see Cannibal Corpse, then Metallica, then Pantera, like back to back to back that year.
Was that the Metallica show with Candlebox opening and Suicidal?
Yes. Oh God, yes. That was awful. Like it was one of I there's not a lot of bad shows I've seen, but the Candlebox that night was just terrible.
They were okay. I'm glad somebody else agrees with me on this because I've talked about this on the podcast. I talk about how Candlebox just half-assed their whole set, and I get hate for it. People, I've seen them live, 6 times, and they're amazing. I'm like, well, they weren't that night.
Not at all.
Well, they were getting booed from the get-go, so I think the singer was just kind of like, well, fuck it. Because I was among the people. I mean, yeah, I was happy to see Metallica, but I was mainly going to see Alice in Chains when I bought the ticket because they were supposed to be opening for Metallica. And so I was kind of pissed off. And I actually couldn't even sell those tickets to anybody that year. Like, nobody wanted to buy Metallica tickets from me. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That show is on YouTube, like the full show.
I saw some of it, yeah.
And it's funny, whoever's filming it had to have been like in the same row as me. But you watch it and it is like the absolute worst era of Metallica. Like James has got a mullet. Kirk's got like some sort of weird dreadlocks going on. Jason, that's when Jason was like, shaved head, cargo shorts. Like they just, I mean, Lars looked cool that was like the one time in the band where Lars looked cooler than the rest of the band.
Well, he was losing his hair anyway, so he kind of just had to go with it, right?
Right. Yeah, I was watching some stuff from like 06, man. Just like that's how you know that there's no cure for baldness. Like when dudes like that have that much money and they still have they're bald, you just know that there's not a
cure. It doesn't exist.
Wasn't that the show where didn't they make fun of Alice in Chains during the set? I think I remember that pissing me off.
Either that show or there's
they started playing
footage out there.
Yeah, they started playing Man in the Box and were like slapping their arms and shit. I was like, that's classless. Then James goes off to rehab a couple of years later.
Right. Yeah. Matt, worst show?
Woof. Well, this was the biggest disappointment, but kind of pulled it out as well. I was a fan of this punk band called Dillinger 4.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go see these guys. They're finally coming to town. Been listening to them for like 15 years. And we get there, my best friend Matt and I, we get to the Magic Stick, which is like a pretty big venue. And not pretty big, I mean, pretty famous, like the White Stripes kind of really launched out of the Magic Stick and the Gold Dollar in Detroit. But anyway, say all that to say this. Their bassist is a notorious lush. And he is at the bar pounding them, just pounding them. He then, during the opening band, jumps up on stage, grabs the bassist's bass, because he's a bassist, starts playing their songs. So it's like, we're in trouble. The band so opening band finishes. It's time for Dillinger 4 to go on. 2 songs in, the bassist is naked. Just instantly.
It happens.
He then starts a song that the band looks at each other like, not on the set list. Let's go. Like you can just tell, like, even if you don't know the inner workings of a band, like this guy's going rogue and we either don't do anything or we just try our best. They finish the 4th song. He turns around back to the audience, throws up, projectile down, passes out. The band's like, that's it. And like everybody starts to boo. But then the drummer goes, are you saying boo or boo earns? And we were like, well, that might be the most punk rock thing I've seen in a long time. But for straight up just like overhyped in that moment. I saw the Strokes and the White Stripes at Shane Park, and the lead singer of the Strokes had broke his foot, so he was like in a chair, which was totally lame. And then the White Stripes in an open air amphitheater with echo was terrible. So that was like probably one of those shows that I was super excited to see, and it needed to be in a smaller club, condensed, not like with a beautiful vista of the Detroit River and like a breeze coming in. It didn't work.
Is that one of those where you walk away, you're like, wow, these guys aren't going anywhere?
Well, at that point, White Blood Cells had already come out, so they were on their way. They had Fell in Love with a Girl and Dead Leaves on the Dirty Ground already hit. So you knew that they were going to make it and they were going to be very, very big. But that night was not one of their nights.
Now, are you guys, when you go to shows, are you guys tailgate crushing some beers in the parking lot? Are you like, just go watch the show, go home? Where are you at?
No, for me, I used to, not so much now.
I never was a tailgater because I was but I would show up early to see opening bands because I was always interested to see who the opening band was. And then the older I get, the more I would miss the opening band and just come, like now, like we saw Poppy in January. We walked in and Poppy hit the stage and we were all like, yep, that's perfect.
I'm exactly there with you.
That's as much Poppy as we needed. Let's get out of here.
I'll tell you a messed up story from a show I saw, I guess it was about a year ago. My wife, I'm not all about just the rock and metal. I like a lot of 80s pop stuff too, and 70s pop stuff, or light rock. And I saw that Hall & Oates was going to come to town with Tears for Fears. And I kind of like Tears for Fears, but I loved a lot of Hall & Oates stuff from back in the day. So I was like, you know what? When am I ever going to get a chance to see these guys? So I got tickets like $20 a piece. Me and my wife went. Tears for Fears goes on, and I only knew about 3 songs, but they were great. Really well done set. Everybody liked them. Hall & Oates comes on, and it's instantly awkward. There's just a weird tension between Daryl Hall and John Oates on stage. And John Oates lives here in Nashville. And they get through, Daryl Hall's just not saying anything between songs. And they get through 3 songs. And finally Daryl Hall goes, "How's it going, Nashville?" Just like that. And yay. And then John Oates walks up to the mic and he goes, "Yeah, hey guys, it's nice to be home. I live here now." And Daryl Hall looks at him and just goes, "Yeah, that's why we're doing this show." And it was really, really awkward. And I was like, "Whoa, he's pissed off." He was just dickish through the entire set. And it got to the point where people were booing him in between songs. And then it got near the song Private Eyes was their encore. And as they went into that song, Daryl Hall's on this little piano and John Oates is right next to him. And you've got the big screen behind him and you can see everything closer. And they had the screen up where it was between the two of them. And because we're up in the nosebleeds. And also Predators hockey team, raise your temperature when the hockey game isn't going on. Anyway, we're up there watching this and we look on the screen, they break into the song and you can see the two of them yelling at each other on stage, literally screaming at each other. And I don't know what it was about, but Daryl Hall did not want to be in Nashville that night. And they were just terrible. I mean, it was a bummer of a concert.
I'd love to see Hall & Oates though. That's one of those quote unquote guilty pleasures as a kid,
John's asking if Daryl played. No, he played guitar through a lot of the set. It was just when they went on Private Eyes, he got on this piano thing. But yeah, most of the set he was on guitar.
I was talking to a future guest. I'll leave it at that. We were talking about Hall & Oates, and as a kid, when Maneater came out, I was probably 5, probably somewhere around there, and I took that song literal. I was like, "There's a woman out there, and she is going to eat you." That eats men, and it is the scariest song I've ever heard in my life.
The song's not even about a woman.
Is it not? I don't even know.
It's about New York City. It's a metaphor.
Ah, yeah. Nice.
Well, and you can hear that on my Hall & Oates Geek podcast.
Hauling them oats.
Yeah,
Hall & Oates. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, Chris. You know, I'm a big fan of your Hall & Oates podcast.
Yeah.
I it's funny. I did an interview with Obituary a long time ago, and I talked to the drummer earlier in the day, and I'm like, "What time do you guys play tonight?" And he goes, 11. I was like, "Well, thank God somebody told me early, because I was not going to show up at like 8 and just have to sit through a bunch of opening bands."
Although that used to annoy me when I played in bands where it was always.
Yeah.
Like, what time do you go on? I'm like, really? Sit through all the bands. Come on, because a lot of us are trying to support each other.
Yeah.
Matt, you ever been in a band?
I've done one-man band stuff, and I had a two-man band, and we only played like coffee shops and things like that. But I mean, I've done improv for such a long time and have played festivals and shows like that, but not too much on the band front, where it's kind of like crazy gear and having to worry about the PA in the house. And
right.
Mainly with improv, it's like, are we here? Good, let's go.
With the improv up there, man, I saw you posting on the Wayne County Life stuff the other day.
Yeah,
that dude is just he's taken two of his characters and just blown them up. Beyond belief. I actually paid for a video of his, and it's so funny, man. He's like making fun of me. It's great.
He is. That's my friend Garrett, and yeah, his newest character, he's calling him Uncle Terry, and we have talked about just our batshit insane dads for such a long time, because like there's a very special like thing that our dad's generation has, where it's like, I do the coolest things ever. Well, you're like, what are you telling me? No, why are you doing that? And it's just them. It's like, my dad was in a rumble pack, which is not a gang, I guess. It's just Dad, boom, that's my boy Nick Campbell. He was the drummer, I was the bassist. Two-man band, love. We were the Roar of '84. And
the band called Hugs, or is it just a...
He's just giving me hugs.
Okay.
The band was called the Roar of '84 because that was the last time the Tigers won the World Series.
Oh, nice.
And, but he kills it. Like, he did a one-man band thing because he loved the Lonesome Organist, and like just was kind of fascinated. So he would strum and drum at the same time, and he like had a set that was airtight and was like amazing to watch. But it was on this mini kit. Like, truly, like the kick drum was like that big. That's an understatement. But it was very, very small. And yeah, he was amazing. And we got to play. We played my house, and we played a coffee house in Chicago, Pontiac, Michigan. I mean, we
went on tour.
We toured. What am I saying that I didn't have to worry about gear? Of course we did. My Ampeg 25 bass amp came with me everywhere.
But tell me some more about the backstory of the Wayne County Life guy, because
so, I mean, we have all been improvising for years now, since like 2003, 2004, and we used to have a second city in Detroit, and that was kind of the brass ring around these parts. That would be like being able to play, you know, that theater that you were talking about. Like, I've made it. I'm here. Yeah. I'm playing this.
Yeah.
And that was Second City for us. And, you know, Little Caesars Pizza Empire is what brought it here. Because Tanis Illich, who was Mike Illich's son, he's the founder of Little Caesars, went to Chicago, saw the Second City, was like, we need them here. Asked them for it, asked for like a licensing agreement like they have in Toronto. And they were like, no. He's like, I got a bunch of money here. And they said, let's work something out.
That sounds good.
And like Keegan-Michael Key came through here. Like, all of these people, my friend Jamie Moyer, a bunch of people that I can't remember because I put myself on the spot, to Mark Evan Jackson, who was in The Good Place and a billion other things. Tim Robinson, who has a show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave. Sam Richardson, John Hartman, all of these guys, like, they just started here, and there was a second city in Detroit, and then it moved to Novi. And once it left the city, it's like, you can't make fun of Detroit unless you're in Detroit. It's just how it works. So then it moved to Novi, and it was kind of like in an Andiamo's. It was in a restaurant, and they didn't know what to do with it, and they were trying their best, but it just ended up closing, and it kind of turned into that thing of, I'm not moving. Garrett's not moving. He has 2 kids, and we've done as much live improv as anybody could do, but there is the internet. And he's like, I have these characters, I have these things. He called one of our friends and he was like, can you be here in 20 minutes to record something? Yeah. And that was 2016. And like he just started going. But the one that really got him, and it's all shots on goal. I mean, both of us, all of us here, the 3 of us have podcasts. Right. And it's like, you'll look at metrics on one thing, the thing that you think like, this is going to do it. We got it. This one's fire. And it's like 5 people commented. And then the one that you're like, I don't know, like 70 people commented. What's going on?
Yeah.
So he did one about all black Dodge Rams.
Oh, it's a great one.
Where he has a character who is kind of like that construction worker guy who also is the hunting guy, but who's also like 2 seconds away from crying because he's never been allowed to really be emotional in his whole entire life. He plays that guy really, really well. And he's just like, if you own one of these, your dad thinks you're a genius. And there's enough people with all black Dodge Rams that they kind of blew up. People saw it, and then it was tagging, and like all of a sudden he has 100,000 people following him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then he did one for Smash Mouth.
Yeah, that's him. The Smash Mouth one is... Yeah.
This one's his newest one, and he's just him talking about, I've made a bad purchase. I should not have put this Camaro on these tires. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you can tell.
What I think is funny about him is I'm assuming he's just like walking around, and then all of a sudden he sees this car, so he just does improv about it.
Well, he's from Westland, and he's kind of from, like if around here there's so much auto, a lot of people work in automotive around here, whether it be actually at a plant or car repair or whatever. So it turns into, there's a lot. I mean, I can go right now and I can drive Woodward and I will show you, I could film it, and there will be people in chairs waiting for a cherry car to drive by. Like that's our car culture here. Mm-hmm. Like right now we are hitting peak dream cruise. So like there's cars everywhere, and like it's very, very close to us here, because there are people that are like, if I don't have an F-150, I don't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like that's just it.
What I've liked about his videos too is they're not like a lot of people who put out a funny video, but there's a lot of jump cuts in it and stuff like that. And they're cutting out.
Just straight down the barrel.
He just hits record, and 3 to 5 minutes of just gold comes out of his mouth, and all 3 of us here know talking for 3 to 5 minutes about anything is tough, because you think you've talked for like half an hour, and you look down and you're like, it's been
30 seconds.
Right? It's hard, man. But yeah, that's one thing I've always liked. I did the Smash Mouth one was the first one I ever saw, and then just kind of fell in love with what he does, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the Smash Mouth one, he's at the construction site, and he got to be in charge of the radio, so he puts on Smash Mouth because the beginning of All Star comes in so hard. He's like, somebody once told me. He's a genius.
That song is a crime against humanity.
Have you seen any of this stuff, Chris, that we're talking about?
No, I've never even heard of the guy. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, he did I think it was like $20-$25 a while back. He did the, where you could get a personalized one. And I just sent him a bunch of, just that I had a podcast, that we were getting married. And he basically like told Melissa, he's like, don't do it. He's got a podcast. He's like, one of my favorite parts was he goes, you're my boy. I know you're a girl, but you're still my boy. and then just like going on and on about how, how basically don't marry him and he's there for her and all this other stuff. Yeah.
I'm smelling a Rockin' Pod commercial coming.
Yeah, he would definitely be able to pull one off.
That's great. And then he's got the other character he does. I'm not as big a fan of. I do like some of it sometimes, but this main, like the construction guy or whatever he is, that's awesome. But this is good, turned into the Wayne County Life Pod.
little Wayne County, little improv. I have to know before we stop, what's the one? Like, what's the pinnacle? What is the concert that you get bragging rights on? The one that you're like, I saw it. Nobody, like, if you were there, you were there. And if you weren't there, you don't know. Like, I was lucky. I'll go first just because I put it on a spot. But I was lucky enough to see Nirvana at the Michigan State Fairgrounds. And they were like everything to me in 1993. Like, I was in junior high school. That was all I wanted to listen to. That was it. And I mean, nobody knew that he was going to be gone so soon. But that's the one where I get to say, I saw Nirvana live. I did.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, their light show is still one of the trippiest light shows because I swear they had stars or something in the gels. And they hit my eyes, and I saw the stars. I was like, "What? How? How did that happen?"
That's like the plot of the Stone Age, isn't it?
Probably, right?
I think bragging rights wise, I mean, obviously getting to see Pantera so many times. There's a lot of people I talk to like, I never got to see Dimebag live, and I think I saw Pantera and Damage Plan combined 12 times, stuff like that, or. I made it down to what was that? Grimies when Metallica did the pre-show.
Oh, you were at that?
I made it for Seek and Destroy. I got down there like right at the very end of it, and it was fun. And I couldn't get in, but you could see in.
Yeah. And
then like right at the show ended, Metallica had nowhere else to go, so they basically walked past me, and I just looked at James and high-fived him. I was like, what do you do? Like, hey, buddy. But
I missed a phone call, or otherwise I had a shot at getting into that.
Oh, nice.
I was delivering papers for the Tennessean at the time, so I was sleeping through the day, and I wouldn't wake up till like 11, 12 at night to go to work.
Yeah.
And I had my phone off, everything, and then I wake up to a voicemail from a friend of mine who, I guess he was in the Metallica fan club or something, and that he was on the list or whatever. I don't know how it worked that they got him in, but he was frantically leaving me a message going, call me back, I can probably get you in. So I have massive amount of regret for that.
Yeah, I had found out that day that they were there, and I was at work, and I was doing a closing shift, so I didn't get off till 9. So I was like calling around, and I was like, please come in and work for me. Metallica's playing in front of like 150 people. Yeah. And finally someone came in for me, and I was working at Rivergate Mall and just took off to downtown. But yeah, some of those shows, it's stuff like that, or I got to see the Misfits reunion at the Riot Fest that year.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And so there's the big stuff like that, or even down to getting to see Korn in a club or something.
Yes. Well, you were at that Louisville show I was at too, weren't you?
Which one? I saw them a couple times in Louisville.
It was Korn, Helmet, and Limp Bizkit at the
yep.
97.
Yeah, we were there, and we came in we got there, like, this is before Limp Bizkit's first album.
Yeah, I missed Limp Bizkit on that show.
And we walked in, and I think they closed with Faith, and then Helmet played, and I think it was a Monday night because they did a midnight signing for their new album, what it was, Aftertaste, I think, came out that night. And then Korn came on, but yeah, it was crazy, man. And then we saw Korn at 328, favorite club, and then we just saw them all over the place. Or the original, I got to see 2 of the original Family Values tours that you guys did the CD on there, Matt, in Kansas City at whatever arena that is.
Arena.
Yep.
That's nice. I saw Helmet Sepultura for Chaos AD, and that was pretty awesome. And Ministry was the headliner on that for the
Scribble popping in.
It's live, Scribble.
It's all kinds of live. Now it's
dude. I can shout out Scribble all day, man. I love that guy. Yeah. His hustle is incomparable. Nobody.
He goes,
Nobody's working like Scribble.
I'll write you a song, and 20 minutes later, you get like perfect bars over music.
he's amazing.
He's like, "Can I do a song for you?" Sure. Boom, it's right there. But yeah, Scribble rules. You guys, it's the what was that? The Everlast episode you did with Scribble was really good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you listening.
Corey Davies, Ace Frehley in Indianapolis 2 years ago. Awesome show. Meeting him afterwards was pretty damn cool. Also, Chris, do you remember at that Ace Frehley show in like '95? He had like you could meet him for like $25 or something. It was super cheap.
Yeah,
and I was even like, I'm never going to pay for someone's autograph. And now I'm like, man, I should have come off that $25.
I didn't meet him that night either. I don't know why I didn't. I guess I was just broke. But like, because I bought that ticket way ahead of time. And I remember I was buying the ticket from Tower Records in Murfreesboro, and the guy behind the counter made fun of me for wanting to go to the show. Yeah, because he's like, oh, those bad boys of Kiss. And I was like, fuck. I did meet Peter after the show at that concert.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
In 1995, I saw Weezer, and they were humongous Kiss fans.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned Ace in one of their songs.
Yeah.
He was at the show. Yeah. And he was at the show in Detroit. And my friend Matt and I are leaving. And like, I bump into him. And then we just walk by. And Matt goes, Matt, that was the Space Ace.
Hey, Scribble's asking our thoughts on the Sebastian Bach Jericho feud. Feel like it's all work, and I 100% agree. I think it's going to be, Sebastian and Jericho going at it, and then all of a sudden it's going to be the newest online, collaboration of Fozzy and Sebastian doing a Skid Row tune.
I don't think so.
Are you aware of this, Matt? Have you seen?
No, I do not. This look is nod, keep quiet, don't make a fool of yourself.
It's worth looking up the articles because it's very entertaining.
Basically, Jericho is saying that Sebastian lip syncs. Sebastian is basically saying that Jericho sucks as a singer, and they're just going back and forth right now, and it's quite hilarious.
Savage animal.
I don't
fist.
I don't think it's a work. I don't
know. It's Canada on Canada crime, so they don't normally do too much hateful.
I don't know
towards each other.
There's just a little. I don't know. It comes out if it's a work, it's a very well orchestrated work. But I don't know. I don't know that I don't give Sebastian giving him that much credit for being smart. I just don't think he's smart enough to pull it off. Jericho, of course, that's what he does. But the fact that Jericho posted a video of him trying to sing "Youth Gone Wild" and it better be a work if he actually thought that was good, because I did not think it was good. It was terrible, actually. And it's like, yeah, he could probably beat up Sebastian, but you're never going to outsing. I dig some Fozzy stuff, but come on, man. I mean, you're not the singer Sebastian Bach is. and I agree, Gabriel. I think he does. He at least sings to tapes for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty bad, man. It's what's funny is like. Matt, you can weigh in on this too, but even like the recent Dokken videos where they're just showing him up there and it just sounds god awful.
Yeah, he needs to sing.
So would you rather see that, or would you rather see him lip syncing or some tracks under him, things like that? Where are you at, or do you just want him to stop? And that doesn't have to do with Dokken; it could do with any band.
Well, I mean, there's that part of me that would have loved to see Diamond Dave and Van Halen play. But now I'm like, nah, I'd rather, I've listened to, a lot of those older live records, and they aren't great. Some are okay, some are good, but like, they aren't like this, they aren't the studio perfection that you're obviously getting on those records. And I just feel like I would go every time I see Diamond Dave sing now, it's like, oh boy, buddy. I don't know. Like, yeah, you get some backing tracks, get something to help you.
Corey Davies says, dude, I was there at Dokken on Saturday. It was not as bad as the videos.
And there's something majorly wrong with that camera.
Yeah. Somebody needs to smash your camera.
Jeez, I don't know. It's what's that phrase? The law of diminishing returns. I think a lot of bands have hit that point, Kiss included.
Yeah, those Whitesnake re-records are really, really bad too.
Oh, that new album?
The live album.
The Whitesnake album?
Yeah, there's a Whitesnake live album out there running around that's
I haven't even bothered listening to that
pretty
yet.
rough.
Super sweetened. Like
no, that's the bad part. It's not. It's like it's the exact opposite. They're like, yeah, this sounds good.
There's an episode somewhere in there of like, is there ever a successful re-record? I don't think there is. It almost never works.
Right. Somebody, somebody did some re-records recently that I didn't hate. Who was that? Oh, Clutch did some re-records of like some classic Clutch where I was like, I don't know, man, you don't touch Space Grass. And then they then they redid it, and I was like, all right, it's not bad.
Although those guys are still like performing at a high level,
right?
So
true.
They can pull it off. But when it's a band going back 30 years later and trying to do something, it almost never works. Like Twisted
Especially
History,
bands with huge dynamics. Like when they have. Clutch has always been more in a zone and a groove and like not saying it's easy to do because what they do is very difficult to do. And at the same time, if you lock into that, like that's going to come back. Whereas like the dynamics of a singer's voice.
That changes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When that's gone, that is, very difficult to kind of be excited to see live where it's like, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to give me that thing that I want to hear because I remember from the records.
Yeah. I know Kiss's re-records were not very good. Even though they're like they re-recorded Hotter Than Hell, and yeah, I guess sonically it's better than the original because the original sounds like it was recorded in a wet cardboard box. But but you've got Tommy and Eric re-recording Ace and Peter's parts, and then Paul Stanley's voice is the ultimate X factor and what's wrong with that band now. So, but yeah, and then Twisted Sister re-recorded Stay Hungry. Give me the Tom Werman version any day. I don't care what Dee Snider says in interviews these days.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing we went and saw Kiss on this last reunion tour, a year or so ago, and as for much as there was some tracks going on and stuff like that, I had a good time. And free ticket or whatever, it was a gift, but it was fun. Took the kids and had a good time. But I think if they wouldn't have had the tracks going live and Paul was just singing how he would sing, I think that would have actually made the night kind of rough. So I don't know, man. I think I'm kind of at least give me some enhancement tracks if you can't pull it off like you used to.
Well, if you have to choose between one or the other, sure. I mean, yeah, because I saw him a few years earlier and it was even worse. But I don't know. It's just. I don't know if you got this. I mean, with Kiss now, like the stage show is pretty amazing. It's big, bombastic, and everything, and it's like it's timed perfectly. But it's almost too perfect. It's like sanitized, and you feel like you're watching like the Ice Capades rather than a rock and roll concert. It just feels so scripted, overly scripted. And although honestly, from the reunion tour on, it's kind of been that way. I've had fun at the shows, but I saw Kiss play on a floating barge at Riverfront Park in '94 with no bombs, no makeup, nothing. And that performance blew away any post-reunion performance I saw. To me.
Matt, you're in Detroit Rock City, man. How many times have you seen Kiss?
Oh, I can count them on no hands. I was too late. I mean, like, I was born in '77. My brother was not into them. And then it was just like it passed, like it passed by. And then I saw Breakin', and I was like, "What is this music?" And that's what stole my heart. It was just that thing where it was like more people wanted to grab cardboard and try to do a windmill than wanted to put on face paint and be the demon.
So if Gene Simmons had stopped breathing fire and learned how to backspin, you might have been.
I would have been all in.
I would have been all up for that.
Well, it was funny because it was like I only knew one kid who had a Motley Crue tape. Like it just wasn't part of our life, but I could turn on WJLB on the weekend nights and hear like hip hop. I could hear what would then become techno, but like I could hear that stuff, and our brains were on fire. And then we get to hear James Brown's Living in America. I mean, and then Weird Al comes out, and I was over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, environment plays a huge part in all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that Scribble's bringing up in Breaking Ice-T is the DJ, and he has commented on it where he's like, it paid, but it is the wackest thing in the world. He's like, don't worry, Ozone and Turbo, you'll be good tomorrow. Like, it's so bad.
I saw Breaking 1 and 2 in the movie theater, and I also saw
yeah.
Geek Street in the movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah, I was all about it back at the time. I couldn't breakdance worth a damn, but yeah, I was all about it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either. I wanted to tut really bad.
Yeah,
but I just couldn't pull it out.
Way too white. The
this funky Magoo.
Scribbles also asking, "Are you excited for the new Megadeth?" Ellison said it's more complex than the Rest in Peace, but I don't. I mean, I feel like it's one of those like, this album is better than our best album ever kind of comment. So yeah, I mean, I was really happy with Dystopia. I really do believe that the new stuff will probably be good too, as long as there's not a whole bunch of I just had throat cancer songs.
That's the question: is what's it lyrically going to be? I mean, like, what's the content going to be? I love Dystopia. I thought it was great, but and it doesn't have to be super complex for me to enjoy it. I mean,
Right.
Some of their simpler songs I like, but I don't know. If it measures up to Dystopia, I'll be happy. It doesn't have to measure up to Rust in Peace. Come on, let's not be crazy.
I think as long as it holds up to like Euthanasia, I'll be okay.
As long as it's as good as Risk. No, wait, never mind.
That's Matt's favorite. Matt, I love Matt's.
Matt's like, see, I'm very good at this. Quiet, eyes of agreement. I have no idea.
But it's funny as you talk about the rap and stuff. When did you kind of take that turn into KMFDM and stuff?
That came because of the record stores.
Oh, okay.
So I was in record stores pretty much from 16 on, and then if you go to a record store, eventually whoever's behind the counter, if you become friends with them, they kind of become the guidepost of your tastes. And I had enough touchstones with this guy, Bill Paskins, who actually became a very close friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. One of my best friends at the time. He now lives in Los Angeles and he worked for Shazam. Now I think he works for Apple Music. But like he was just one of those guys that knew the industrial side of it. So it was kind of like you start at Bowie, you go to Susie and the Banshees and Joy Division, and eventually you end up further and further away. And it's like, why am I listening to Throbbing Gristle? I need something with a beat. Then you get to Ministry and you're like, this rules. What else is like Ministry? Well, KMFDM is. Yep. So it just was like this natural progression. And then it's like, oh, this is a whole genre. And there's a million of terrible bands. Dude, Scribble's writing KMFDM was dope, but Ministry are fucking kings. Yeah, I cannot deny that. Al Jorgensen's a maniac. I don't enjoy a lot of his later work. I think that for me, peak Ministry is from Land of Rape and Honey, Mine's a Terrible Thing to Taste, and Psalm 69. That's like, those are untouchable. That's such a solid run of albums.
Kind of getting it back to concerts. The one thing that we saw, was it last year? I think it was probably the last big show I saw was Slayer, Ministry, Primus, and Phil doing a Pantera set. And with Ministry, I mean, they came out and they just did hit after hit after hit. They didn't play anything new. They played everything off of the albums you're talking about. But then it kind of goes back around.
I was going to go in July, it is July, but they were going to do the Mine is a Terrible Thing to Taste tour. Yeah. And my brother were like, we're going.
Right.
We're going. Because when we saw it, and you're talking about, did you pregame before shows? We didn't. But when we saw that was at the state fairgrounds. And my friend Scott Rumps went. Aaron Mackey was there, who was like a mutual friend of ours. So we go to Rite Aid before the show. And Aaron Mackey buys Robitussin.
Wow.
Because he's going to, and my brother's like, I have vodka in the car. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, why are we going to robo trip before Ministry? That is not what we wanted to have happen. But that was Helmet, Sepultura, and Ministry, and that was a ridiculous pit.
Yeah, that was like Sepultura's on like what, Arise at the time.
Chaos 80, yeah.
No, it's crazy times. The one thing about Al though, which is great, is he has so many effects on his voice. You'll never know if he's lost it or not.
Nope.
So,
dude, they could play a DAT at this point and you wouldn't know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking. I have Tony Campos coming up this week, and I was bringing it up that Wayne had so much stuff on his voice that you could kind of get away with replacing him and giving the guy like all the technology, and it probably won't be as bad. And Tony's like, "Oh, Wayne didn't have that much on his voice." And I was like, "No, he did," but I was like, you don't have to replace Wayne Static with a guy that sings just like Wayne Static, like as in Journey, you have to find a Steve Perry.
Right.
You could probably get away with a lesser singer in Static X. But you guys are both having that face now. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, with Static X, I think the thing that's hard with Static X is his name was Wayne Static.
Right.
And it's like, it's a namesake band. And I mean, the new album rips. I want to spend more time with it, but like Lauren and Jenny are definitely all about it. They like it, but they had a huge problem seeing that live show at Harpo's. They left. They felt it was, wait, what? Who?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Chris Eyes.
Scribble's asking if that pedophile MFer worked on the new Static X, and
depends on who you believe.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he did. I think there's definitely some songwriting credits that are attributed to him on this one and stuff like that. But it's going to be hard not to. So
they're trying to distance themselves from him, though.
Yeah, and I think Chris Aiken says the best. I was talking to him the other day about it, and he just basically said, basically they should come out and say, yeah, he worked on it. Yeah, it sucks. And, obviously we don't want to be associated with him and we're moving on. But they are like Chris Aiken interviewed him and he was like, hey, I had Trip on another show recently. And Tony cut him off. He's like, I don't even want to talk about him. I don't want to give him any kind of publicity. Yeah. I'm just like, damn.
Yeah, he's persona non grata to those guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a rough it's hard to justify, two statutory rape cases.
Oof.
Oh no, yeah, fuck that guy.
For real.
Yeah. But yeah, but the new Static X, I was actually really surprised about how good it was. I was actually really into it. So I didn't go in with very high hopes, and then I had the interview coming up, so I was like, I'll give this the old Christgau challenge, and and checked it out, and I was like, it's actually not too bad. But as we wrap this up, what do you guys have coming up on the show? What do you got coming up, Chris? I know is it still Christmas in July?
Yeah, Baco coming on. We're going over. Well, he did this long list of where he ranked every single Kiss song in the catalog, which was 219 songs.
Jeez Louise.
From bottom to top. And initially our idea was to go through all of them. And I was like, I don't think we're going to be up all night doing this. So we got a little ways into it. We basically all just wound up picking our top 10 and bottom 10. So that's what'll be coming up. Some of the choices might surprise you on what we think is the best and worst. But we've got that. And I haven't completely confirmed it yet, but I may have another road crew guy coming up the week after. And this time, this guy was part of the reunion tour.
Oh, nice.
And then after that, I think 1976 year in review will probably be the first thing out of Christmas.
So are you and Aaron still doing away from each other's shows, even though you could probably go over to his house now?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just down to laziness at this point, but yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. I don't know. Hopefully we can. Well, his in-laws live with them, so it's got to be extra careful. But I don't know. I'm just, whenever he says the word, yeah, let's do it together, then I'm there. But otherwise, I'm happy doing it here. I don't have to worry about drinking and driving, doing it here, so that works great.
Scribble says, Matt, I'm boycotting Roach Coach until we get that new body count. Love you, Toomey. Kicking ass. Peace out, Scribble.
And new body count sooner than you think.
So what do you got coming up? I guess technically tomorrow.
So yeah, well, we already have tomorrow's episode in the can. It is side project summer still, but tomorrow's episode is not a side project. But I'll tell you at this point, I have no idea. I did the episode and I'm like, I don't remember. Because that's how great my dad brain is right now. But yeah, we're side projects summer, so we're doing new metal side projects. We've already done Fieldy's Dreams.
Oh.
We did the Deftones side project. So we're just taking a look, and we're trying to decide if it's something that's definitive or if it's something that's kind of decadent, self-serving. Turns out a lot of these are really self-serving, but we'll be doing the Drayman side project. So I can
nice.
tell you that that's coming. I think that's Device or Drayman's Device or something like
Device.
that.
Yeah, wow.
And you can find our show at roachcoach.com. That's Coach with a K.
Oh, you know what? Hang on. Boom.
Whoa, yeah. Look at us. I'm on a Chiron.
Yeah, that's all. I left that off there. And if you want to check out Talk to Me, you can subscribe on all major platforms. But man, well, guys, I appreciate it. I'm gonna kick you guys out of here, finish this up, and I will just say, man, I appreciate you guys both taking time tonight.
I appreciate you. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Toomey.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Once again, thank you to Matt Naas from the Roach Coach podcast, and a huge thank you to Chris Czynszak of the Decibel Geek podcast for taking the time tonight. Appreciate you guys. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And so for the Talk to Me podcast, I'm Joshua Toomey, and I will talk to you guys soon.